a reading from Tea with the Midnight Muse. This is called This Work of Women. Yes, it is time for a revolution of women and path, women and prosperity, women and business, women and art, women and the marketplace. We do not choose to give away our works for nothing. We are not starving or frivolous artists. We are creators whose creations save lives, heal the world, mend wounds. This work of women, entrepreneurs, priestesses, practitioners of every kind is visionary work. Our work is vital, is essential, is needed. This work of women must include creating livelihood. This is not easy, quick, fun, or likely. That's my favorite line, or likely. This may not even be accepted or encouraged, but this is what we must do. Create an abundance revolution. Create our own path, create our own money, create our own marketplace, and we must be compensated. We are creating our own mystical, cosmic, luminous, overflowing bank. A bank that does not cause, contribute, or condone to the suffering of others for profit. It's a women's bank. Believe it, create it, deposit into it, draw from it, invite other women into it. Enter the income stream in your little golden boat and dream and work and pray and play and do not stop. Keep going. Sometimes it will seem impossible, but we will make miracles. Miracles are organizing themselves around our dreams and our work right now.
Everyone just take a deep breath and breathe that in. Yes, shake it out. So welcome, beautiful, radiant, gorgeous, bright beings, ladies. We are so honored that you have taken time out of what we know are very full lives to be here with us. I'm Amy Ahlers, and that was the incredible Shiloh Sophia reading from her extraordinary, highly recommended poetry book, Tea with the Midnight Muse. And we want to welcome you to this business jam, this video jam where Shiloh and I you'll be able to see our shining faces here. We know there are those of you that are calling in or listening later, what have you. You are welcome here with us. And we are going to be talking about business is not as usual. And we just want to acknowledge all of you. We have close to, if not over, 3,000 women that are heart-centered, incredible entrepreneurs that have downloaded our one-page business plan, that have said yes to the invitation to Radiance, that have said yes to being here with us today on this video jam. And we really want to bow to each of you for joining us here today. So thank you so much for being here. And yes, I'm recording, Sarah. Our darling Sarah is making sure that I'm recording. Yes, thank you. So Shiloh, do you want to say your welcoming words and invite them to get some tea or what have you? What supplies do they need?
Absolutely. Well, because business is not as usual, we are having tea or juice or whatever it is you want to bring. We're having a little cafe time. And we want this to be a time where we're really in the space together. And I invite you to get a paper and pen, or some of you who are digital savvy may have your digital drawing board. We're going to be working a little bit soon with image. And I was thinking yesterday, people all the time asking me, like, why is image so important? And why is it such a huge part of your business? And I said, you know what? All of the media, all of advertising, all governments, all systems, all countries, the big boys, all are using image and language. Yet us over here, we're sort of like taking a long time to get up to speed with that. So whenever you think, oh, wow, I can't draw, or why would we include image or art in this? Just know that they're using it to market to us about who we're supposed to show up as all the time. And we defy that. That's a part of business. Is not as usual, is that we are creating our own media. And so that includes you having a pen and paper today.
Well, and we really view that calling together this circle is about creating a new vision of the way that we want to do business as heart-centered entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
And so this is so important for us to take time out of working in our businesses, as they say, and work on our business and do that from the space of our heart, and do that from the space of our soul, and do that from the space of true alignment, and allowing the strategy, allowing the marketing, allowing all of those things that we can get very caught up in, allowing those things to really be in service of our callings and to be in service of how we want to be of service. And so often it's so easy, and I know that I'm very guilty of it too, to get lost in the land of numbers and marketing and revenue and spreadsheets and all of that stuff, or just in the grind of delivering your great work. But today we're taking time out from that, and we're lifting up out from that. And we're looking at our businesses from that bigger picture place, from that place that is about being in alignment with who we really are, who we really came here to be, and how we can be of even deeper service.
Mm.
This is the vision that we are calling forth, Shiloh. Yes?
Yes, we are. And this is something that Amy and I talk about all the time in our community. It's something that we talk about because we serve women and because we see the struggle, and we also witness our own struggle, the mistakes that we've made into this point and the compromises, and how could we come together to begin to talk about this in new ways and to collaborate our different worlds and build a bridge between them so that we could bring a new conversation. And they say, there's nothing new under the sun. However, there have always been futurists and visionaries who are pointing out towards what's possible. My team members like to joke that I'll call up and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I got the next thing. We got to get this out tomorrow. And they'll be like, that is so 2 years from now. So you may also have that experience where you're like, suddenly the idea comes in and you feel like it's already real. Like you feel it in your body, your heart lights up, like you've got to do this, you've got to get this idea out. And yet the path to making it happen, especially for those of us who are big dreamers, can sometimes be elusive, which is one of the awesome common denominators that Amy and I have. Is we both, from early on in our careers, decided to be completely a cause for our own technology so that we could author our companies. We have team and we have support. So we are here cheering you on in your businesses and projects, coming from being entrepreneurs ourselves who have taken full responsibility for how to make that happen. And so part of our work is inviting the women in our communities to really look at what is it really going to take to bring your idea into form in this marketplace. And when I say this marketplace, it's the marketplace we're defining. So I mean the marketplace that everybody is operating in. Because when we're talking about a new paradigm of business, we're not even thinking over there. We're in this whole other place where we get to operate from heart. And it's not that crowded because there's not that many people yet doing it. But we are saying there's a whole other marketplace that we're creating that is defined by guidelines that are of service and from heart, but yet don't compromise the creator that's making it happen. And I just want to be transparent. Amy, we have a little bit of comments in the chat that might be helpful. You're looking blurry.
Yeah. So everyone, just so that you know, I am actually up at the lake with my girls and my husband, and I am in a remote location. So you'll see that the background is a very funky wood paneling, bad curtain background, not my usual office that I'm normally in. So bear with me today. But when we were really looking at doing this call, we knew that this was the space that we wanted to. So if there's a little bit of technology stuff, I know that it seems like it just paused for a second or what have you, please forgive me on that. And we will be coming right back for something that happens. So thank you so much. So I think it would be good for us to share a little bit. I really wanted to acknowledge who this gathering is for, because like I said, we've had thousands and thousands of you that have come forth. We have those of you that are just waking up to your gifts. We have those of you that are coaches. We have therapists. We have people that have been in business for 25 years that are looking to really start creating more scalability and leverage in their business. So it's not just trading dollars for hours, right? There are those of you that have been doing great work in the world and are ready to take some of it online. There are those of you that are graduates of Shiloh's Color of Women program and that have learned the technology of intentional creativity and are ready to bring that forth into your community and to your circle in a bigger way. There are those of you that have taken Liftoff Business Academy with me just in the last couple of months, and it is really time for you to step up in an even bigger level. And so we welcome all of you, whether you have just started to really say, I think I want to create a business, or you've been doing it and have really launched your business in a way, or you've been doing your gifts and sharing it and making livelihood from it for years and years and years and years. Wherever you are on that spectrum, you are welcome here. And I'd love, Shiloh, will you tell people a little bit about you and your story, and then I will do the same?
Absolutely. So I experienced myself in high school as an outcast. And so I became an artist. That's where it starts out. And I became an artist because I felt like it was a shelter for my identity, really. Many people that we talk to have the same experience where they also felt like an outcast, no matter what side of the spectrum they were on. And I had a creative family. So I went to art school to become a professional artist. And when I was there, I completely rebelled against that establishment. And I left San Francisco in my 20s and went to study art on the mountain with my mentor, Ahlers, and had my first art show a year later. And it was so awesome. I remember the day when I had that art show and I had pottery, photography, poetry, and paintings, and did a performance. And I had a sold out show. And I remember it was like a couple $1,000s or something. Each painting was $300, you know. And I had this little stack of money and I was like, oh my gosh, this is possible. That was that moment for me. Like, I just made money completely outside the system. And I come from a background, both my mom and my grandma were entrepreneurs. So I grew up in a household of women making dresses to sell at the market, pay the bills, sell at the market, pay the bills. So I came from that. So I knew it was possible, but there was definitely a lot of still struggle in there. And so I, after that sold out show, I had it in my mind that this was possible. And soon after, I published my first book, Color of Woman, which was a coloring book and journal. I published it at Kinko's at midnight one night. So, and that's where it really started. And I did really innovative things that I still help guide people to do. Like for the coloring book, I called 300 women's bookstores in the United States, which don't exist now, to place my book personally. I just did stuff like that. And so over time, it started happening that the work started going, and I opened my first gallery and people would walk in and start crying. And I'm only like 25 at that point. And so I'm like, what's happening? So I knew there was a need for images of the feminine and for mermaids and for, I mean, I had the weirdest paintings. I had like whole mermaid families playing guitar with cats. It was, and so, but it just kept selling and selling. And so I knew that there was this need and I wanted to address that need. So I also represented hundreds of other women artists and eventually learned a way of teaching that made it possible for other women to create their own images. So instead of just purchasing my paintings, they actually began to create their own. So instead of my 1,000 or so paintings out there, there's now tens of thousands of paintings out there that women created their own media of themselves. And so that's really what I'm doing now. I have a school. I'm in my studio right now. I have a gallery, and we teach art, entrepreneurship, and visionary everything. Visionary consciousness, how to think, how to become who you really want to be, and then apply that beauty to the act of prosperity so that we can sustain ourselves and do more of what we love in the world.
Beautiful. Well, for me, my path is different and yet the same in many ways, the same feelings, the same, like, why am I so different? What's happening? Like, why am I like in 16 years old having conversations on the phone, about death, what happens after we die, what's the meaning of life, fulfillment, like while listening to a Pink Floyd album, right, while a fire's lit or what have you. So definitely have always felt that yearning in my soul, as I know so many of you have, of just really wanting to make a difference and really wanting to fulfill and make good on my purpose. And so back in 1999, I was in Los Angeles and I kept running into this woman named Melissa, who was a life coach. And this was back in 1999 when I was like, a life coach, what's that? And I was living in Los Angeles, which is a sprawling city, as people usually know. And so running into her 3 times was very meaningful to me. And finally, on the 3rd time, I was like, okay, I clearly need to work with you. And I don't know what to do and how to do this. And she eventually ended up mentoring me to become a life coach, because she could really see that when I was assisting, because I ended up assisting her as a trade for life coaching services. And when I was assisting in the background at her workshops, she would say, people are really perking their ears up when you're contributing. And she really saw that in me. And so I remember when I went to my very first training at the Coaches Training Institute, or CTI, back in 2000. And as I was sitting there in that training, I just had tears streaming down my face, because I was like, this is it. This is who I was meant to become. This is my calling. And so I've never looked back since then. So I've been a coach now for over 17 years. And over the course of doing all sorts of different types of coaching, I really came to that I wanted to write my first book. And so I did, without knowing anything about how to get a book published in a traditional way. And it became very clear to me that I went out with my first book, and I was lucky enough to land an agent. But as I went out there, all the feedback that came back from that first book was, she's great, like we love the idea, what have you, but she doesn't have a platform. And I was like, I don't even know what that means, a platform. I've been a coach at that point. I'd been coaching for like 8 years. And what that meant was that I didn't have a community that would actually purchase my book. I didn't have a list, which we're going to talk about language. So I went out and I started to do things online back in 2009 and launched my first summit called the Women Masters Teleseminar Series. And I met the most incredible people that I had admired for my entire life, and then eventually got my first book deal after I had built my list and my platform. So that really became my foray into the whole world of online marketing. And I just love it. I was also at that time pregnant and had my first baby. And I really wanted to be able to do things that were more virtual. And I became incredibly passionate about really doing things online and being able to do things in a virtual setting, hence being here on vacation and being able to be with all of you. Isn't technology amazing? So, and then what ended up happening to me is that people started asking me to coach them around building their businesses and doing things online. So I really, first and foremost, am a coach that specializes in women and moms that are hard on themselves and really want to lead an inner wisdom-led life, really from that source of truth inside of them. And then secondarily, like through kind of the back door, I have had all these people say, Amy, can you help me get a book deal? Can you coach me around my business? Can you coach me around building my community so that I have people to send out email newsletters to and invite people to my offerings? And so I've really also discovered this incredible passion I have for helping others, specifically heart-centered women entrepreneurs, get their work out into the world. And so joining forces with Shiloh today and talking about business is something that I've become incredibly passionate about as well. And so that to me is, I also have a podcast called The Mama Truth Show. I love speaking to soulful moms and really helping them embrace the magic and messiness of motherhood, as I like to say. And then I also have Inner Mean Girl Reform School, which I co-founded with our dear friend, Christina Rilo. And I have that second book out into the world, Reform Your Inner Mean Girl. And then I also have this community of business visionaries that really want help in taking their businesses to the next level. And so that's me in a nutshell. So there you go. And I can see that it's hot where I am. So I'm like, woo, I'm getting all hot here. So we're so glad. And I think that hopefully you see reflections of yourself in our stories as well. Because I think that for all of us that are gathered here today as heart-centered visionaries and entrepreneurs, it really is about being of service and utilizing your gifts to the fullest degree. And so Shiloh, I would love to just invite you now to take our participants here. We have hundreds of you that are dialed in live here with us, or live streaming live with us. And again, thank you for being here with us. Shiloh, will you take us through a visioning, like you said, have a piece of paper or a journal handy, pen, marker, whatever it is, so that you can really go on this journey with Shiloh now?
Absolutely. So I'm going to get my pad of paper out here, and I'm using a big Sharpie, and this is going to be my little desktop that I'm going to work with. And what I want us to do is to go into the domain of dreaming. And I don't mean like dream at the level of something that will never happen. I want to go to a dream that's a possibility, like something that's not so far out there. And I don't mean like, I want $1 million and I want this and I want that. Okay, those things too. But really, what do you want to see have happen in the world? And even if you don't know the path to that, but you have an idea. So this dream could also be connected with your big idea, so to speak. One of my big ideas when I was younger was to change the face of the feminine in my lifetime, like how women were actually viewed. And I had no idea at the time how that could even happen. Like it just, how would I do that? Like, would I put up, informational billboards across the United States demonstrating why this is important? Like, that's where my head was like, I had no idea. And it's really pre-internet, right? And yet I knew that that was what was my big dream. And what ended up happening I didn't have a clear path to that happening, but I held that big idea as a real possibility that I knew needed to happen, because we needed it for the sanctity of the planet. We needed for women to be equal to men, and for women to be able to make incomes and to find our place in this world. And so what ended up happening is that, I ended up teaching painting. So now there's thousands and thousands, like tens of thousands of images of the feminine in people's homes, in businesses, and shelters, and crisis centers. So the dream has occurred. I didn't chart the course to that, like have a step-by-step plan. What I did was I created the vision of what was possible for me at that time, and related to everything that I did as a project. And all the projects, though, went back to that big idea. And what's awesome about this way of working is not creating some 100-page business plan that you're creating so that you can go to the bank to convince people how you're going to make money, right? That's one of the ways that people operate. But this is about holding up a dream, an idea, something you want very much for yourself and for the planet, and then building structures and projects that move towards that, that make that possible, that make that closer. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a drawing exercise. And this drawing exercise is about bringing that big dream right into your heart. And so don't worry if you've never drawn before. This is a step-by-step process, and I will lead you through it, okay? And if you've never done a face with me, this is your chance. And those of you who are moms, I want you to just remember that you can show your little girls and boys this immediately after the conversation, that they too can do this, because it's such a revelation. When we're little beings, we all draw these little faces. And so this is a way to do it. And what we're doing in this case is we're drawing a little face that's going to represent you as the one receiving the big idea into your heart. And this is called intentional creativity. So just feel the edge of if you've never drawn for a long time, you can feel that like, oh no one's going to see it. Doesn't matter. We're going to start with just putting a little curve like this, which is representing your edge of your face, your chin. And then we're going to put some eyes in here. And every shape on the face is like little half moons, little crescents. And we'll put a nose, and we're going to put a little smile, okay, and some eyebrows. And you can do this many times after the call, so this is just to get you started. Let's go ahead and put strong neck and put a good head on our shoulders, okay? Let's go ahead and put in our heart, because what we're talking about is the space of the heart. And what we feel is that any business of the future needs to be guided from the heart. Otherwise, it's not taking into consideration the planet, the creatures of the planet, the human beings. And quiet as it's kept, the heart is the most intelligent organ in the body. For example, when something is coming towards you, a person, an idea, a dream, anything is coming towards you, it first is perceived by the heart. The heart has a perception that goes out 15 to 20 feet. It sees it before your eyes. It knows it. Sends a message to the brain. Brain sends a message back to the heart. Heart sends a message back to the brain before you have language for what's actually happening. So we don't think of the heart as like this whole Valentine-y lovey-dovey thing only, right? This is actually about the supreme intelligence of the heart, which is connected to all other beings instead of just yourself and your own ideas. The heart is connected to the other hearts in the world. And in reality, that is true. We are all connected at the level of science. It's not just a spiritual concept. So she has this heart here. And for you, I want you to just imagine, and you can just put a little symbol in the heart, either a little circle, or I'm putting a little sprout with little roots. Some little symbol that represents for you your big idea, your dream. And if you don't know what that is right now, let's just close our eyes and just ask your own consciousness and the wisdom of the heart, what big idea or dream wants to come through right now so that I can work on it with Amy and Shiloh today? What wants to come through? You may get language or sound or even an image. And if you don't get anything, that's okay too. Just remain open. All right. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to bring the big dream or idea that's coming to you and put it in a little circle at the top of your page. And it's just representing that. It's holding space for that potential. Now, usually when we have dreams or ideas, because of our educational system, we are trained to work on what is commonly called the left brain. It isn't really left and right brain, although we do have those two sides. The whole brain works together. But what happens is we let this way that our brain processes on the left side take control. The left side processes things in parts, which is didactic in that it breaks things apart. So when you bring things into your left brain, like your big idea, what normally happens is it breaks it into sections. And the whole, the idea of the whole doesn't make sense. So if I'm thinking, how am I going to change the way that women are viewed in the world in my lifetime, and I take it into my left brain, there's no path, actually. It's impossible. There's no budget. I can't afford the billboards. How could that ever happen? I'm no one. And so immediately this big idea gets reduced to actually no idea, because there's no way I'm going to do that. I become overwhelmed. And a lot of you have experienced that, where you have this big heart, this big love, and it's so overwhelming because it seems so big and you can't get it through because it's so big. And so then we just abandon it. Has anyone had that experience where it's just overwhelming? And so then I'm going to go back over to here, and we're going to say, okay, so what? It's a big idea. Maybe I can never make it happen. I'm going to work with it today anyway. So show a little rebellious defiance here for this. Is that good? Hopefully. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to say to this idea, instead of going into the left brain, we're going to come over into the right brain. Now, right brain sees things in wholes. If you imagine a pomegranate cut down the middle, the pomegranate is the whole, and yet there's seeds. But if you see a seed separated out from the entire pomegranate, then you don't necessarily know that it goes to the pomegranate, right? You don't know that it's a part of a whole. But in our world of business, we're in the business of, you know, trying to get the golden egg out of the golden goose, or trying to monetize the pomegranate seed, instead of recognizing that we have to nurture the whole tree. We can't just commodify the seeds. That's not going to ultimately work, because we're going to run out of ground and water. We actually need to go to the root and the tree and the water and the earth. So right brain naturally goes to tree, where left brain is like, how can we organize these seeds, right? So you're bringing your, and if you are, it almost doesn't even matter which side you put it on from the perspective of when you're looking at the video. Just if you're facing this way, your right brain is to your right, your left brain is to your left, but it's opposite because of the video. So
will you just take and hold your picture up in front of you real quick, because people are saying depends on what your monitor is. Put it right in front of your face for a minute. Can everyone see that? Hopefully you can. Kimberly, Suzanne, can you see that? It's showing on my camera, but it just depends on what device and so on and so forth you're on. So okay, great. We're getting yes. Everyone can see it now. So she'll hold it up for a little bit. Oh, and Mars says she still can't see all of it.
So it must be people's different screens.
It's different screens. Yeah, thank you. People say, perfect, thank you. Yes, they're getting it. Woohoo. Okay.
I won't be able to draw it there, so I'll have to come back.
Yeah. Keep going back, and then you can just know that you'll want to bring it up for a moment.
Drawing sideways, a skill all of us learn. Okay, so the dream or idea is in the right brain, and we usually go into the left brain. So what happens to the idea or dream when you imagine that it's possible? When you see that the thing that you want to cause and create in the world is actually happening, go ahead and let it just be. Wow. See the people, the people we call your beloveds, receiving the offering. What would the world look like? What would be different if you could bring this out, if you could bring this to the world? And these are ideas I'm thinking of, just things like, in many countries, they don't have menstrual pads, for example. People are now making them so women can have them. It is a business, but now they have them. They haven't had them. That's a dream. That's a big idea that changes the way millions of women are able to care for themselves during their moon cycle. So maybe you have a dream that isn't like a save the world, like huge, like change the entire governmental system, or, you know, save the waters of the planet, but maybe there's a product or a service or an idea that makes people's lives different. Think about the people who are making sure that children can have pajamas. You know, your particular thing is unique to you, and it doesn't have to be grandiose at the level of size. It is grand in the love that it has. And so in this side of the brain, in the work that Amy and I do together, we hang out in that part for a while. We just say, what would happen? What would we be doing? And what would it be like? And how would it actually feel to have that dream or vision come into place in real time in your lifetime?
And I just have to highlight something that you just said, Shiloh, around it's not necessarily grand in the scheme of the world, but it's grand in the amount of love. Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
So let's see, is that viewable, or we're playing with? Okay, I hope so. All right, great, viewable. Now we're going to say to this dream, we're going to make some more circles. So it's almost like the idea is multiplied, right? It gives rise to itself. We think about, let me get this. When you think about things in nature, like this, for example, this is the Fibonacci math spiral. When you multiply in the Fibonacci, everything that happens builds on the thing that happens before. It isn't 1, 1, 1, 1, right? It's 1, 1, 3, 5, 8. Each thing builds on each thing. And what that means is that when we're working from the heart and taking into consideration others, including nature, we have exponential growth. We potentially have exponential prosperity because we're in alignment with how things actually operate. the same exact shape that's in this Nautilus shell is the same way that the planets move through space at 70,000 kilometers per hour, the same way a baby grows, the same shape of the Milky Way is that shape. And so when we are saying we want to bring our projects into the right brain, into that big dreaming space, instead of bringing it into how is this going to happen, we have this opportunity for it to be exponential. And so the adding of circles is about that exponential. Like, okay, what if it could build on itself, and what would be happening, and who would I be reaching? And in this moment, I invite you to think about your beloveds, which we talk about in the one-page plan. Instead of calling people a target audience, we call people a beloved. Because isn't that who you want to work with and for? People that you love, people that you care for. Only after we spend time in the big dream world do we take the idea and we bring it over into the left brain. And left brain is like, oh yeah, I got something to work with. Because the other thing that happens when it's in the right brain is the content gets developed. Left brain says, I want to turn that content into structure. And I use this as a metaphor of just being able to circle the square, just being able to bring structure around the circles. So there's different parts, and they're organized into sections. So this becomes a path or a plan. When you work that way, including like in the Fibonacci, you say, what goes first? What's the first thing? The first thing is our ideal client, the person that we love. That's first. And then after that, we say, well, how is it going to make sense? And how are we going to make money with it? And who are we going to talk to about it? And then what we do is we say, left brain and right brain, bring all these ideas into my heart. And that is the place, that is the domain where I'm going to work with this material. And now the final part of this is just in your own heart, is to just, and I'll just go ahead and hold this up still. Imagine that you're bringing your idea, your left brain and your right brain idea into your heart, and that your heart has an eye on it, just for today. Because the heart is an organ of perception. That is science. And what does heart see about your project that wants to show you, that it wants to show you today, right now? What does heart see and know? And just tune in and take a moment to journal what heart knows about your dream or idea. If you feel like sharing with us, you can. And just remember that you can always come back to this place, and you can do this exercise for any of your projects that you want to, because you can do it for any project. And what happens, what's ultimately happening, which is the sort of behind the scenes look at what's happening, is that your consciousness, your actual way that your brain works for you, gets opened up and starts to function for you in a different way. And that's because the brain will reference the past experience, like, well, you can't make that idea happen. Look what happened last time you tried. Or look at who else has failed, or who do you think you are? Your brain goes back into the past to reference your choices for the future. As soon as you start to draw and say, what is the shape of this idea? And what happens if I bring it into my right brain? If you could see it, it would be like your entire brain then gives you all of what's missing for you to work with. So the drawing exercises is just as much about that, what opens up for you while you're moving the pen. So I invite you to do this again when we get done with our call, to just try it. Be asking a question while you're actually moving the pen slowly, like, what does that look like? And what would that be like? And what are the structures? And You know, how many people would it take to make that happen? And what is the shape of the offering? While you're moving the pen, asking the question, your brain has access to a whole bunch more space than it does when we're typing in a row or putting it in a spreadsheet before we bring it into the dream space. So thank you, dear ones. Love seeing these big dreams and ideas coming in.
So great. So beautiful. Shiloh, thank you so much for taking all of us through that and, and really allowing that context of the big idea of the heart, of bringing it all together, of the space of love that we really want to create from. Because, you know, the title of this video jam is Business is Not as Usual, right? It's not as usual. And so as we have been thinking of this call, creating this call, visioning for this call, bringing in our creativity for this call, we've been thinking a lot about what is the business as usual, like what is the part of the business world that is no longer working? What is the things that we're noticing, the frustrations that we're feeling as women? And when you see this, what's happening, I mean, just this week with what happened with the Google manifesto. I don't know if any of you have seen that, read about that. I know it's been going, especially on social media, on fire around a person in a very powerful position at Google that basically wrote a manifesto about how women are not capable of being in leadership positions because of their disposition, and really giving his ideas and views about how different women and men are, and about how women are just not cut out to be in leadership, women are just not cut out to be in tech, and things like that. And then what's going on in the political climate, what's going on in the world right now around institutions that are being founded on greed and manipulation. This is no longer working. And I feel like it has been rising to the surface for us to really and truly see the truth about what the heck has been going on in this world, about what has been happening when we allow the over masculine to come forth and rule, which we are seeing in a huge way, especially here in the United States right now, what that means in this world, and how that is no longer working for us to be allowing business as usual to be going on. And so I truly believe that it is rising up right now, and the full face of it, the ugliness, the underbelly of it is being shown in a huge way now, so that we can say, no, not that. No, I will not allow that to happen any longer. And so as that's coming up, we're saying, no, business is not as usual. Shiloh and I are saying, we're taking a stand. We're taking a stand here on this call. We're taking a stand with the Radiance Mastermind that we are putting together to say, actually, no, that's not what we are going to found our businesses on. We are going to instead be bringing in the right brain, the left brain, the heart. We are going to be back in balance with our masculine and our feminine, and to allow the feminine to rise up to meet and to actually create balance within our worlds, in our own businesses, with the way that we are running our businesses in the world, and with the way that we are modeling and teaching others that want to step forth and create more impact, more income, more prosperity for themselves, to actually do that from that balanced place. So that is what we are saying no to. And I know, Shiloh, you have more to add here.
Yeah, we are absolutely standing against that and standing for ourselves.
Yeah.
And what I want to say is that we also can't spend all our time fighting.
That's right.
And the energy that it takes to do that. I once held a panel discussion with Alice Walker, the author, and my teacher, Sue Sellers. And we asked, what can we do? Like, what can we do? And she said, oh, you just can't keep fighting the system because you'll exhaust yourself.
Yeah.
You need to just create the alternate thing, and you need to collaborate with women, do business in common, and she said, and hold land in common with women. And she said, you need to look and you need to see who the other woman sitting next to you also wearing red shoes is, and talk to her. Like, notice the people that you resonate with. Basically, I love that because it's so girly on one hand. Like, shoes. Also has work shoes, was one to talk to. And so someone, she's an activist. She is human rights. She is a poet. She travels the world defending and protecting people. And so to hear someone who is a defender of Earth say, you actually can't spend all your energy fighting the system. It was just like, oh my gosh, that's such a relief. So what am I going to do? And this is where it comes in this alternate paradigm. And in the alternate paradigm, we are aware of that. We do not turn away from suffering. We do make our stands, and we continue on with our own work. Parallel. It has to be happening at the same time. We can't wait for all of that to improve. We've got to be improving systems on the side. And the level to which that needs to occur is rapid at this time. To give you a visual of this, just imagine the night sky and the stars. For most of our lives, we've been focusing on the stars, right? Because it's the stars in the black. But the majority of everything that there is actually the black part. That's the 97%. The only knowable part is the star part. That's all we can see. The internet is like that too. If you imagine the grids, it's the smallest part. Biggest part is all the space in between. Most of the marketers in the world are on the grid. They're operating in a particular way. That's the smallest common denominator trying for the biggest market share. In our world, we know that black part is the fabric of the universe that actually holds this all together. That's where all the space is. That's space. When we do work that's in alignment with our hearts and the planet and is on behalf of others, we actually occupy that much space. We don't have to operate on the grids. We operate in a parallel space, and then we use the grid to communicate information via email or via our websites. We don't live there. We visit there to communicate, and then we come back into spaciousness where the good, loving, sacred activists of the world all dwell over in that much larger space. And so from a marketing perspective, yeah, that part is saturated, but this whole other place is wide open and infinite and supportive.
I love that. And I feel like, as Shiloh and I have been talking about, for over a year now, we've been talking, communicating about doing this program together, which we'll talk a little bit more about later in the call, called Radiance. And I know that there's many people actually who've already joined the circle that are on the call here today. And as we were talking about that, we wanted to make it clear that your business isn't online. Doing online work is in service of your business, is in service of your big idea, is in service of your vision of what it is that you want to create. And so the online part is about being of service to that. It's not the thing. The thing is your vision. The thing is the difference that you want to make in the world. The thing is offering up your gifts to your beloveds. And so Shiloh and I have really been able to utilize the internet, utilize online marketing to be of service to what we're here to do. And it's just one thing that we do inside our businesses that are in service. It's not our business. Our business is not online. Our business exists outside, like Shiloh was saying, in that black space. It exists in a completely different paradigm. So if you are feeling that frustration because you are someone that has been doing all of your great work over in this other grid, and then all of a sudden there's social media and list building and email newsletters and all of this stuff, and you don't know how to do that, you have created your body of work over here, and that is the most important thing you could ever do. And learning the online marketing techniques, learning those strategies, and making certain that those strategies are in alignment with your values, that can be taught. And Shiloh and I can teach you all about that, because that's just such a small part, and it's challenging, and it's a lot of work, and we're not going to BS you. We are truth tellers, so we're not going to BS you and say, oh, it's just really simple. You throw something up. Nope, there's like 75 steps to doing most of those things. There was 1 million steps to get us to be on this call today and to have thousands of people sign up for this call. And we're not going to pull back and try to say, oh, it's so easy breezy, just pop it up and do this and do that. We're not going to keep having you buy into that myth, that big fat lie that it's just this easy thing and you pop it up and it's an overnight thing. Nope. Nope, it's not. That has not been our experience. That has not been the experience of all of the masterminds and colleagues that we are in communication with. It takes a lot, and you can do it. It's challenging, and you're still up for it. You are.
It does take a lot. And I think that for me, looking at it as a creative path, as a part of my creative path, is like, how does this beautiful idea get communicated? And I think of it a lot at the level of quantum physics. The fact that we could be broadcasting to you right now around the world is sacred to me. And we had to learn this technology in order to communicate it to you. So when we have in mind why we want to learn something and what it's going to be able to do for us, then it changes our approach to it. And I've been having this interesting thing for myself lately where I'm in a busy work cycle right now, and I'm just like, I find myself like resisting what there is and what is required. Like, just for one of us to send one of our newsletters could be 4 or 5 hours. You get this email and it's like, oh, another email, but it's like an incredible amount of love and time and care. And so as I've been feeling just this, oh my gosh, I just keep shifting back to what I was taught by my mom and my teacher Sue, is the value and beauty of hard work, and how I feel like hard work has been given a dirty name lately. Like, it should be like 7 steps to ease until you're on your paradise island. I have lots of ease in my life too, but I also have this work ethic where I will make this happen. I will learn. When I could not figure out a good web designer, I had like 3 websites and I hated all of them in my early, whenever they came out, whenever that was. And I said, I obviously have to learn how to build my own website. I have to learn how to create my own graphics. I have to learn how to have my own email list. And so, in my mid-30s, I took on learning how to do that. And I'm also painting on the side at my gallery, and then learning technology on the side. And so I've been doing that for a really long time. And I seriously would not be where I am today if I continued to farm out all of that work. Even though I have more support now, the fact that I could do it all myself, that I could launch a program tomorrow if I wanted to, because I know the pieces, is a form of power. And take responsibility for knowing, and to get out of this thought that we're going to get discovered. Maybe you will, but don't depend on it. Or it's going to come do it for you, or you're going to have a team that's going to come support you. Like, let's get into this, learn what we need to learn, stop being afraid of hard work. It's all a big workout, and just go to work and figure out how we're going to get these messages out there, and then to do it in community, because I can't operate in a vacuum. Every time I'm going to make a decision for my business, I run it by about 4 women. And if they don't all say yes, I don't usually do it, because I feel like they love me and they know something I don't know. So I'm continually in multiple masterminds. And master is often connected, by the way, with a masculine term, but it's not an only masculine term. It's really to be the master yourself of your domain. So we're sort of, we do a lot of reclaiming too. Some stuff we reject, like target market, but other things we say, no, we master something means you're taking responsibility for it and knowing how it works.
And we've noticed, as we've coached so many thousands of women around their own businesses, that there is a different way that women operate around prosperity. And we are really taking a stand for the martyr model of sacrifice in order for you to give your work into the world to go away now. We actually need to say enough with that archetype being the way that we lead, where you will give away your work, where you will do trades for your work, where you will undercharge for your work, where you will have a sliding scale for your work, even though the bottom end doesn't work for you, and where you will be working your tail off and giving so much of your gifts to your clients and to your beloveds, and the cost of it is your own livelihood. The cost of it is your health.
Yeah.
That is no longer okay. So we need to step out of the martyr complex that we have been sold as a bill of goods as women. that in order for us to make a difference in the world, we need to sacrifice our personal happiness, we need to sacrifice our health, and we need to sacrifice our own livelihood. Shiloh and I are here to say, yes, we work our tails off, and we also play our tails off as well. And we actually have said, you know what, we're going to create livelihood. We're going to actually charge and ask people to invest to work with us, because that is what it takes in order for us to be able to be of service to the world. And P.S. and by the way, the more you are willing to step into that archetype of really being able to take care of yourself while you are giving, the more you will be able to actually also give away for free. The more you'll be able to do calls like this for absolutely free, for no charge, to give away a one-page business plan that has been years and years and years in the making, and to combine what Shiloh does and what I do before each and every project that we do, to offer that for free, no strings attached here. We'll be able to do that in the world because on the flip side, we actually have offerings where we are receiving great livelihood and prosperity for those.
Yeah.
So if you feel like, yeah, you know what, I have been sacrificing, like I'm having trouble, I'm in debt, I'm having trouble paying off my student loans, I'm having trouble paying my light bill, I'm having trouble doing those things, and yet I'm continually offering my services to people and doing incredible healing work for them, and I'm not charging them anywhere near enough. I'm asking you to step up and stop doing that right here. Let this right here, this message, inspire you to knock it off.
Yeah, right. And thank you, Amy. And Amy's one of the people who does that for me too, who helps me understand what it would actually take. Like if I do a VIP day at the level of my business, what it will actually take for me to take that entire day out, and what that number looks like is way more than I feel like I could charge, but I actually can't afford to do it unless I charge something right. And so it has to be in relationship to everything else that's going on. And I feel it in my heart. Like even if it's $1,500 for the day, I feel like, oh my gosh, I can't afford to do that. So then I don't do it. Right. Meanwhile, I'm not charging what I could be charging. So I'm not working one-on-one. That's what Amy helps me with, like to figure out how to make that stuff happen. And it doesn't make sense to not charge what keeps you going in your business and in your life. And I want to just say that it's an older paradigm that's sort of a residual collective, because in times past and in indigenous cultures, which all of you are from indigenous cultures originally, the healers, the gifted ones, were often provided for through gifts and offerings by the community, and didn't have lack or need. And women are often connected with those archetypes. And so as we started shifting into agriculture and industrialization and all of the things, those gifts became minimized and suppressed, and were also like completely eradicated in some cases. Like, giving birth on our back, for example, is not something our ancestors did. These are things that get promoted to create money for people that are not us. And so when we begin to reclaim the gifts, it's almost like, oh yeah, right, I am a medicine woman, I am a healer. I know we have doctors and nurses and psychotherapists who are on the call with us right now. We recognize, oh yeah, I'm a medicine woman, I'm gonna bring that gift back. We have to sort of go back to that point in our lineage when we were receiving gifts instead of needing to charge. And we bring ourselves to this moment and say, I recognize that that's a way that myself or my ancestors had worked in the past. And now in order for me to give my gifts, I need to be provided for and have the space and time to do that. And it's a really unconscious thought a lot of times about, oh, I'm a healer, so I should just do this. And it's time for us to move that out. And I'm not saying it's easy. It really isn't easy, because if you're a giver and a lover, you actually just want to go ahead and give everything you can. And one of the reasons for being prosperous is so we can be philanthropic. I feel like when I think about my level of success that I want to get to in my life is so that I can be philanthropic. I can't afford to be philanthropic if I'm not covering my bases.
Right. That's right. And this is one of the things in Radiance we're going to go deeply into, is around how do you restructure. This is where I always like to call it the sacred business model work is done. where it's like really looking at what is the business model in your business that's really going to allow you to be of service to your beloveds, and how can you actually build different income streams and different levels of working with you that will allow you to truly create the prosperity that you deserve, that you want, the livelihood that you need, so that you can really not build resentment in your work. Because when you're giving and giving at the cost of your own financial resources, at the cost of your own health, at the cost of your own happiness and balance in your life, you will build in resentment. So let's take the resentment out of your business model. And there's a hint here that I'll give you. Doing only one-on-one work and charging not enough for it is not a sustainable business model for a longer period of time. And so that's one of the things that I always feel like people come in with blinders on like this. I just have this one client that I've been working with, there's a VIP client, and she's had these blinders on. She's been doing, 50, 60-hour weeks of doing one-on-one work, and people are getting unbelievable results. And we've taken the blinders off and created this whole other business model for her. And she just sent me an email the other day and said, thank you for changing my life, because she's enrolling her first platinum style program, a higher end program that allows people from all over the world to work with her. She's doing incredible soul level work with people, and filling this program, which she's already 60% full, means that she will be making more just through this one program. There's the cuckoo clock. She will be making more through this one program than she makes in the entire year from doing 60 hours a week. And so shifting this and creating this new sacred business model for her has allowed her to free up all of this time. And now she gets to spend more time with her daughter. And she gets to also create and have these incredible experiences. And she's opened up her business in a very virtual way. So in the Radiant Circle, every single participant will be building their 6-figure plus business model. And that might be something that's 5 years out or 10 years out or 2 years out or this year. Or they might be like, oh, I'm right on this edge. Depends on where you are. But we're going to be really looking at that so everybody's blinders can be off, and using the sacred math, right, Shiloh? The really looking at what's the math behind this and making this real for you.
And making that exciting, like making math really exciting. Because it's creative. I remember the first year when I had a $100,000 plus year, first year that happened in my early 30s. And I was like, it wasn't a goal. It just sort of happened, Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, and it was from selling paintings. But I also, I was like doing street fairs. I was on the side of the street with my fold up table and my pop up tent. It was really something. And I built my mailing list from there though too. Right? So I was out on the street, but all these people that I met are still in my community. Yeah. So, I always say to the artists, like, never don't show in the Mexican restaurant or the street fair or the farmer's market. Like, humble yourself, show up and get out there. And so I had that first year. And then I said to myself, how can I do this again so I can sustain it? Because it was kind of random that it happened. I just happened to sell that many paintings. It wasn't a goal. And so then I was able to do the math and say, in order for this to be sustained over a course of 12 months, do the math. And I divided it up, and I was able to look at what it would actually take to do it again. Mm. And I was totally shocked. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I would have to create, this much amount of sales per month in order to reach that again. And it was like a revelation. Yeah. And then I said, well, what mix of paintings, products, and services would make that possible in the next year and then exceed that? So it came from excitement and then the math. And to have a really awesome relationship with numbers and math is a way to sort of shift your money story too, because math is sacred. We are perfect equations. Like, we are here because of sacred math. And so when we work with people, we really work with people to recreate a relationship with what it actually takes, and to honor that, and to answer one of the questions about determining your worth, which is a big, longer question. There are, of course, industry standards, and then there's what you need relative to what it takes to run your business. And so when I realized that $1,500 for a day wasn't going to make it possible for me to do that, it was relative to what I actually accomplished in a day and my monthly requirement, what I need to make it happen and to sustain the level that I have, and 10 staff members. Like, I can't just go do something else, because actually it has to be even more than that. And that's like a hard realization. So the number that I pick has to be relative to what my time takes to take that day out of the whole rest of the system. So it's relative to each person's economic financial model.
And using your body as a barometer when you're looking at pricing can be so powerful too, because your body will know. You will feel that sense of expansion when you are looking at the number and saying, okay, if I charged, $1,500 for this, and then you can feel that contraction, and it's like you want that number that gives you that sense of expansion.
That's exactly right.
That's what we'll be doing in Radiance 2, is looking at what is the right number for that, and what is the right, and you'll feel it in your body. And it will feel kind of like, could I possibly charge that? Will people even pay for that? Like, you might have that questioning come up, but you'll feel it in your body. And that's where the community comes into play, because then you can have your circle, your prosperity circle, your mastermind circle, your sister circle, your sister mind really reflect back to you. Yeah, that is the right number. I feel it. I feel it in my body too. Yeah, I would pay for that. And they'll hold that vision for you when you're in those moments of self-doubt, which inevitably come up. It just does. It just happens, especially when you're risking and growing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Shiloh, I know we wanted to touch on the one-page business plan, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Radiance and take some questions through the Q&A. So if you end up having a question, you can push on the upper left-hand corner of your screen, the Q&A button there, and you can submit a question there. So feel free to do that while we talk a little bit about the one-page business plan, which really gives you this new language that Shiloh and I are taking a stand for and really utilizing inside our own businesses. So I'm even thinking that I could do a screen share while you talk about it of the one-page business plan. And I know some of you are having to jump off. I'll just say this: if you're interested in learning more about going deeper with Shiloh and I in our 6-month program called Radiance, you can check out radiancemastermindcircle.com, radiancemastermindcircle.com, and you can apply if you're like, well, I don't know, maybe even if you're a maybe, apply, and we will let you know if we feel like you're a fit. We can have a one-on-one conversation with our team around that. So check that out at radiancecirclemastermind.com. We'll talk about that more in a moment, but I'm going to share my screen that shows the one-page business plan so that people can see that. So this is our beautiful one-page business plan. Shiloh, I'll hand it over to you, my darling.
So I just want to acknowledge a couple things. One, we're at the hour point. We thought we might go over a bit, and we are. It is being recorded, so we will send it to you. So if you have to jump off, thanks so much for being here with us. But we're going to keep going for a little while over this plan, and then also take some questions. I also just want to say that when you are marketing, of course, like we are marketing Radiance, part of the model is you create free offerings and you share them with your community so that people can see if it's right for you and you're right for them. That's not some backhanded behind the scenes strategy. That is one of the ways that we have always worked in the marketplace, to call people together so they can see if they're the same. So just so you can see, that's exactly what's happening here. We're telling our gift. Here's our plan. So what we thought we'd love to do is have you take a look at the plan and give you an action item. Love for you to pick at least one thing, a dare, that you're going to go and do today in regard to this. Let's just start at the top and go through briefly. We talked about changing target audience to your ideal client or your beloveds, which is who you're here to serve. And you ask yourself, what do they want and need? And you allow that person or that group of people to arise for you. So maybe your action or your dare could be to do some work around your beloveds, or even reach out to a few. We feel that your passion, which is the next circle over, what is your message and why is it important? Really going to want to look at for yourself what lights you up and why it's important for you. Otherwise, the business is not going to be sustainable for you energetically. You have to be leading from that place of love first. Then we're going to go up to the corner where it talks about identity. So instead of like the bio, right? This is our identity place. Is how do you define yourself? And how you define yourself in the identity category might be different depending on what product or service you're offering. Like if I'm teaching an art class, I may emphasize my arts identity. If I'm teaching a business class, I may emphasize my success in business. So identity can be shaped toward the offering so that it lets the people you're sharing your work with know more of who you are. Community, moving a little further down, we have what or who is your circle of support. So in the model that we're working with, and the business is not as usual, we are asserting that community is essential to making our dreams come to life. And that circle of support can include your friends, it can include your bank and investors, colleagues, your coach, or maybe a mastermind like Radiance. You could consider that you want to grow your business in a group of women with us or with others. And so your community may consist, I think our community consists of like all of those, right? And then you also, this is the community that's your circle of support. So this is distinct from the client or beloved that you're serving. And this is really an important point because you need a support system that's different from those that you're serving, that's defined as people that are there, who are in alignment with your vision, who are there to support you. And then let's go on over to the other side of the page to product offering, the product offering oval. Instead of, just products and services, we like to think of this as your offering. Like, what is the thing you're bringing up that you're offering to the world? I often think of offering it onto an altar of humanity. Like, what is my offering? And I see the visual of this shape and image and energy of this. And then we look at what is the problem you can help your beloved solve, or the vision you can help them dream. So in a lot of marketing, people market to the pain point. That's very popular. We're in the process of shifting that. That's where you identify the pain of the potential client so that you can sell them a product or service to solve that pain. This is a subtle and important shift that we're making with our work. We are still looking at the problem because people have things that they need support with, but we're not looking at it from the perspective of selling to them as the primary impetus. The primary impetus is serving them and your passion. So this is, again, a subtle frame shift of like, what is the origin of the idea? It would be helping them solve a problem. In my work, I actually help them vision the dream more. I'm less about problem solving or even meeting a need. And I'm really about helping people arrive, guiding people to arrive at a vision. So my offering isn't even based in the want and need category. I'm in a completely other category. You may have a completely other category there. So you want to think about your offering and how it serves your beloved and you. And I would also say you would consider the earth. Like, what is it going to take to create that offering? If you have to make 1 million widgets in China for that to happen, is that consistent with your values? Most of my books I print in the United States. I did one book in China, and not that they don't need to eat too, but it was always like stuck with me of like that I broke my value on doing that. And so you want to make sure that your product is consistent with your values as much as possible, as in not the sweatshops. And then we're going to look at investment. And we're going to look at investment from a couple of perspectives. One is, what investment do you need to make? Like, what do you need to start? And what's awesome about starting a business is that you really don't need much money to start a business, especially in the online world. You can start with some technical savvy to just get going. We no longer need a huge investment to start getting to work. So you're going to look at what investment will you need to make and not make it so big. Have to have investors, have to have it all in order, have to have a business plan to get started. What is really essential for you to get started? And let me say that every project I've started almost up until the past couple of years has been started with about $100 and a whole bunch of courage. And so don't be fooled to think you have to have a lot to start. You don't need a lot to start. I would put my initial investment money more into my circle of support systems, the people that are going to help me, into a coach or a guide or a system that's going to help me do it instead of investing in the business in terms of like, don't make your products yet. let's get the thing started before you actually need that investment money. And then you're going to think about your beloveds again. What is the investment that they will need to make in order to participate in your product or service or offering? What will that be? And this is something we're going to get into a lot in Radiance, of really looking at what does a six-figure business look like in terms of how many people, at how many dollars does it take to equal the amount that you need to cover your bases. So this is where the sacred math comes in, because I have products that are $10,000 for a painting and things that are $3. And so this question, actually, you could imagine it opens up into a whole nother page because it's a constellation of offerings. But when you're working on a particular project like your dream or idea, you're going to want to look at what is the monetization of that particular product or service. And I actually love this category. Even as an artist and a creative, this is exciting for me because we're looking at reciprocity. We're looking at input, output. What is it going to take for me to offer this? And that the client, the beloved, is actually happy to receive that and give that back to me. And it matches up. And then what does prosperity look like to you? I mean, I think this is essential for us to look at, because like recently I've been saying, I don't want a bigger business. I just want the one I'm in to be working really well, instead of like a big business with hundreds of people. So prosperity to me looks like same size business, more income, and more space for myself. So really taking a look at what that looks like. And for me, it has to do with space, right? So your prosperity may have to do with your time or time with your family. And then outreach, moving down. How can you reach your beloveds with your message and offering? So this is where the internet part comes on pretty strongly. We still do some flyers in town and mailers, but outreach is a big part, or what Amy was talking about before about the platform, so to speak. We're going to be changing a lot of this language to be in the feminine, but how will you going to get the message out? Big question. How did you learn about this call, for example? And then on to the timeline. What's your step-by-step action plan to bring those things into alignment? So from this point, we dare you to pick one of these categories and just do some work on it, to look at answering these questions, and then to go make something happen with it.
Beautiful. And I really want to encourage all of you to go maybe to, like, Shiloh said, this is a dare. So maybe going to that space that feels the most, like where you're like gulp, G-U-L-P, like gulp. Okay, I'm going to try to really look at that investment, or you know what, I really need to look at identity. I don't know how to define myself, or I really haven't done that work on my beloveds. Like, go to that space that's lighting you up in that dare feeling of like, oh, if I did some journaling in that space, that would really make a difference. That's not a place where I usually hang out. Go to the one that feels a little bit more challenging, because that is your inner wisdom. That's your muse saying, go here, go here, go here, go here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to stop the share there. Beautiful. Thank you, Shiloh. Yeah, and I just think that one-page plan, I mean, it really is the best of everything that we've learned, whether it's from way back when I did a traditional business plan that was almost 100 pages long with a Harvard MBA advisor that came on board. This is really the essential things that you need to be looking at in your business, and with every single offering, really looking at it and understanding. And if you do this from that place and do it with the circles and do it with color and do it with shapes, you'll be able to go into that heart space, like in the drawing in the background there that we started this call with. So, community for us, especially as women, is so important, ladies. It is, I don't feel like I could have done any of the things that I've done in my business without the support of community and without people that are really believing in me, and having people in my life that are reminding me of who I really am, and reminding me of the vision, reminding me of the big why of why I'm doing any of this. If I didn't have those people in my life supporting me, I could never have created the business that I've created, or launched the books that I have, or have the community that I've built of beloveds. So Shiloh and I really want to encourage you to find that community. And Radiance is an offering, our divine offering for you. If you're drawn to us as your guides and your mentors and your coaches, we would love for you to consider joining Radiance. And if it's not Radiance or it's not us, go find what is. It is so important for you to not be doing this journey of entrepreneurship in a vacuum. When you're trying to do it alone, that is when the inner mean girls, the inner critics, the doubter voice will come in and just attack you. And so we need each other so desperately. And that is, moving out of that space of competition and into that space of cooperation with each other. And so for us, we created Radiance as really an answer to that call in our communities, those people who've just finished Liftoff, graduates of Color of Woman, people who've been in our communities for years, and some of you that might be newly experiencing us for the first time on this call or watching this recording later. So we really designed it for those of you that are ready to come forth and up-level your business in that space of community. And every single member of Radiance will be not only designing their six-figure or multi-six-figure business model, but also looking at what's a 6-month project that is in alignment with that business model that you will commit to bringing into form, as Shiloh says, in that 6 months. Taking it out of the vision land and saying, here it is. And for some of you, that might be doing an online offering. For some of you, it might be designing a platinum program. For some of you, it might be really creating an incredible free offering so that you can really build your community more. You will be deciding that, and we will be reflecting back and guiding and coaching you and saying, yes, that's the one. That's it. And then in community, and Shiloh and I will be having a 6-month project as well. We're using the power of the container ourselves. So we're going to create that container that's going to hold you and hold you accountable, hold you with love, hold you with support, hold you with inspiration and guidance so that you can actually create that for the 6 months that we're together in Radiance. And I just get so excited about this because having that clear project is something that will make the investment in Radiance have a huge return. Huge return.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
I would love to answer a couple of the questions.
Yes. Let's
just start with Kimberly. What is it about 6-figure that is outside the paradigm? Seems like same old thing to me. Same language. 6-figure basically just means $100,000, right? So same language there, but what's different is the absolute approach. The absolute approach. Like everything is different. I mean, we are all, who are in entrepreneurs want to create a goal or a vision of where we want to get. So it's all the energy, intention, and approach to that.
Yeah, and I think that there's something about the 6-figure marker for people that calls them forth into the land of prosperity. And for some people, some people in Radiance are already at 6 figures. So for them, it might be looking at, is this a multi-6-figure vision? Is this a multi-million-dollar vision? Shiloh and I will be, we've been in multi-6-figure land for years and years and high multi-6-figure land for years inside the revenue of our business, which, reminder, that doesn't necessarily mean what we're personally making. So again, always looking at the truth telling there, right? Because I have a lot of friends that are in the multi-million-dollar land and they actually make the same amount of money personally that they made when they were in multi-6-figure land. But the difference is the reason, the why bother, is about impact, is about difference that they want to make, is about contribution, is about how many people they get to impact every single year. And so that's such a personal thing for each of us. And so it really isn't about the 6 figures is kind of, it's not even relevant. It's like, what is that land of prosperity for you? And for most people living in the United States, especially if you're living in the Bay Area, like Shiloh and I, that 6-figure is like what's needed in order to be able to pay the bills and have property here in the Bay Area. And so for you, it might be less than that. That's cool. It's about what's in alignment for you. And more than anything, I just want those blinders to be off, those blinders of being impoverished as a result of giving your gifts. I want those blown off for every single woman that's in Radiance, for sure. Great question. Thank you for asking it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are letting go of some of the lingo and some of the math lingo we're keeping.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
also some statistics that I don't know about, but that once you get to that place, there's a momentum that then makes it possible to do what's next. But getting to that place is often one of the most difficult things for entrepreneurs. Like that first one was a big deal, and then the next ones weren't as hard in the same way because there was momentum. So six-figure for me is about that there's a momentum, there's a base, there's a business.
Beautiful.
So, okay, I love this from Cynthia. The fact that my project itself is not nonprofit seems to be stopping me from committing to a comfortable living for myself. How can I get past this hesitance? Well, that's a great one. And again, we have language, Cynthia, because just the words nonprofit stir all this fear that we're not really allowed to be abundant from it. And as we can see with what's happening in the world, nonprofits are doing such amazing work, but most of the people working in them are in a lot of scarcity and not able to meet their needs. And so I think that regarding a not-for-profit, this is a big topic of interest for me. We also have a not-for-profit, is to bring the mindfulness of the for-profit model of being smart about creating business into the not-for-profit. And then, of course, regarding you, making sure that you have the income that you need in order to keep it going. An example is I go to the United Nations, sometimes with Lisa Anzia from Women News Network, and most of the women there are not-for-profits who have to get funding to go there. And this not-for-profit asked me last year, well, you get to come here every year. How do you get the funding to come here? And I said, well, I create a workshop and I invite people, and usually that covers my expenses. And they're like, oh, you self-fund your trip to the United Nations? And I was like, yes. And so this thought of constantly waiting for donations or for grants or for the government or the system to create the base of the not-for-profit is no longer working. And so in order for not-for-profits to continue to do the good work they need to do, it's time for this next level of bringing business savvy into it and still doing the good work. And that means it can still be completely ethical, but is it ethical to not make enough money and then to burn out, which is what's happening for a lot of people. So that's an area of extreme care and not like huge expertise, but something that I've explored quite a bit and have worked in not-for-profits before. And it really isn't that it doesn't make any profit. It's just that it's appropriately used.
Yeah, well, and I would just add to that too. I think it can be, if you look at some of the more successful nonprofits out there, really looking at, because they have to publish everything publicly, go and look at what their CEOs are making. Most of those CEOs are making as a salary multi-six figures or at least six figures in there because they understand that the talent and the people that can run these nonprofits need to be paid so that they have a living wage and can actually feel prosperous and have livelihood in their lives if they want it to actually sustain. So one of the things that I always love to do when my inner mean girl, when my inner critic is up, or when I have like one of those stories in my head that like being, having a nonprofit means I can't make enough money for myself, is to go and start collecting evidence of successful nonprofits where the CEOs and the people in charge of those nonprofits are making a beautiful living. And so I really would encourage you to choose some of the bigger nonprofits that are doing well to go and look at that, because it's on their websites. You can see the money that they're making, and you'll find the leadership is making a good living, as they should be, because they couldn't stay in that nonprofit sector if they weren't. So I really want to encourage you, Cynthia, to start doing that research, to start collecting evidence that not only is it okay for you to make a good living, it's necessary in order for the nonprofit to survive.
And I think that's beautiful, Amy. And I think that one of the keys too is to have your own sole proprietorship side by side with your not-for-profit, so that you have the freedom to create income and to move things either into the not-for-profit or into your sole proprietorship. That's what we do, so that we can make a distinction. Does this belong in the not-for-profit, or does this actually belong in the sole proprietor, so we can make a chunk of change and then we actually can give the money to the not-for-profit? So I think that more and more businesses are looking at that. But we have to, until that model is actually really in place, we create it ourselves through also having a sole proprietorship.
Beautiful. So Trisha says she's just at the very beginning, just starting to vision what my business looks like. She's built businesses before, but haven't been able to have them as abundant as she wishes. Is this program for me, or should I wait a year or two? Great question. With Radiance, we really designed the program to have women in the program that know, that have a business that's up and running. So in other words, you really want to have something that is up and running so that we can actually up level it and bring it into more expansion versus people that are just at the very beginning and are just trying to figure out what it is that they're here to do. Yeah. So I would really say for you, Trisha, that depending on where you really are, first of all, you can apply, and Sarah or Shiloh or I will be able to have a conversation with you or look over your application to be able to help you determine that. But what I would really say is that the women that are gathering in Radiance, they're people that actually have a business. And the reason that we're doing that, and that could mean that they maybe don't have a website yet, but they actually have been doing one-on-one work, behind the scenes. Or they're women that have the training, they know what they're here to do, but they want to really bring it into form into the world. Come and join us in Radiance. But if you're still in that place of lack of clarity, you're not really sure what it is at all, Radiance is probably not right for you yet. Do you want to add to that, Shiloh, before we wrap?
I think in your case, Trisha, you do have your business vision, and you have built businesses before. And so people have a new vision and they've built businesses before. That could potentially work because, again, we're going to be working on a project, and I've seen your work and know that you have a clearer vision than you might think you do. But so I just want to say, maybe just take a look at the application and just feel if that feels like it's right for you. And we do have lots of other Color of Women graduates who are coming in, who are going to be working on similar visionary projects that you are in their own businesses. So it may be right if you're really ready to get in there.
Yeah, perfect. So you can see the invitation and fill out the application for Radiance. If you're feeling that full body yes, if you're feeling expansion, if you're feeling aliveness from the way that Shiloh and I have been co-leading today, from what we're offering up to you, I really want to encourage you to simply apply. There's no obligation when you apply. It's just simply the next step. And Sarah and our team will be reviewing every single application that comes in. We'll be looking and feeling into if we're a full body yes, if we feel like we can really be of service to you. We're curating a group. No more than 50 radiant women will be in the program. There's women from around the world. You can participate virtually, or you can also choose to come to the retreat that we're going to be leading live in Sonoma in Shiloh's studio. So we're really curating a beautiful group of women that are smart, they're savvy, they're alive, they're inspiring, they're women that we are willing to devote 6 months to as well. So we're really looking for that edge of okay, are we a full body yes? Do we feel like this is right for them? So it's really those perfect fit women that are at the right place. So I really want to encourage you to apply. The application window is going to be closing on August 15th. So fill out the application and play with us and see if it's the right fit for you. And you can count on us to really be honest with you if we feel like you're the right fit for the program or not. Because for us, especially this is a group program, we only want radiant women that are really the perfect fit to be in the circle with us. So you can count on us for that. And I'm so excited. The circle's already forming. I think we have almost 15 women already enrolled, so spots are starting to fill. So, applications are reviewed on a first come, first served basis. So feel free to fill out the application and we'll be in touch with you with next steps. Anything else, Shiloh, you want to add as we close here? Thank you so much for hanging out. I see so many of you are still here with us. I know we're a little over even the 90-minute mark, but this is kind of what happens when Shiloh and I get together.
Oh my gosh. We have a really important question, and I don't know the answer, and I'm hoping you will, Amy, and then we can close out. Will people be able to write Radiance off as a business expense? You have done that before, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes. So what I will say is you always want to check with your accountant, but there's a category when you own a business called education. And I've invested over $30,000 in masterminds before. It's, it's just when I'm ready and it feels right, I do it. And yes, every single time I've been able to write that off as an education expense. I don't know the percentage that falls under, so you can check with your person, and it depends on your state and all of that. But absolutely, this is an investment in your business. It should not be looked at as a fee or a cost. It is absolutely an investment. And my goal is always to have women in our circles that say, that was the best investment I ever made. That's always my goal, is like, I want everyone that's in Radiance to look back and say, best investment hands down that I've ever made in my business. Because of the mindset shifts, the transformation that happened, the 6-month project came to fruition. I want everyone to make return on their investment, so this should absolutely be viewed as an investment. And yes, absolutely.
And also the project that we're going to be working on creating with you is going to be exponential, to the price point of the training. And so we really do believe that those of you who are in business, who are willing to do the work, are going to be able to make back your investment potentially while you're even in the training.
Yeah.
So, let's do that. Let's have that approach if you want to. You can actually make that happen during. And Amy has taken lots of masterminds. I've spent lots of money on training and coaching. It's what gets me juiced up for the next thing, and also keeps me accountable. So it creates a container. And when I think of what the investment is, which is a big investment, relative to what's possible, I guess my question would be like, will you be able to do that on your own? Do you have that know-how, that savvy, that time, and that discipline, which is a big part of it, where you'll be able to create that amount on your own? And if so, then it might not be right. But if you're like, I know I want to be in the circle of support to make this happen, then of course we invite you to join us, and we have a wonderful payment plan, and we'll work with you to bring you into the circle if you choose.
Absolutely. So
thank you
all so much for being here with us. What a delight. I feel so grateful, as I know Shiloh does. And we hope to see all of you that feel that full body yes, or maybe even a maybe in Radiance. We would love to walk with you for 6 months in your business and help you get to the next level. So thank you all so much for being here. We're sending much, much love. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.